Mr. President, distinguished members of the Council, I have the honor to present the report of the Secretary General on the implementation of the Peace, Security and Cooperation Framework for the Democratic Republic of Congo and the region, covering the period of 1st March to 31st August. I am pleased to do so just a few days after the 9th Summit meeting of the Regional Oversight Mechanism of the Peace, Security and Cooperation Framework held in Kampala on 8 October. In line with my roadmap and working in close collaboration with the other guarantors of the framework agreement, namely the African Union, ICGLR, and SADC, as well as MONUSCO, the UN system, and other partners, my colleagues in the office and I have spared no efforts to promote joint action aimed at advancing key commitments under the PSC framework. In this regard, our priority areas of work included the following. First, the neutralization of negative forces. Insecurity in Eastern DRC persists as a result of the continued presence of the Allied Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, FDLR, ex-M23, and some armed Burundian elements, in addition to a plethora of local armed groups in the same region. Allegations of cross-border interferences continue to be made. In addition to creating insecurity and generating displacement of populations, the activities of these negative forces fuel mistrust between countries of the region and constitute a threat to regional peace and security. On the strengthening of MONUSCO's Force Intervention Brigade, as recommended by the Brazzaville meeting of the Regional Oversight Mechanism in October last year, DPKO and MONUSCO embarked on the implementation of the recommendations made by the United Nations SADC Joint Assessment Mission, dispatched to Eastern DRC in April. On its part, my office continued to promote regional and international support to related existing mechanisms, including the expanded Joint Verification Mechanism, the EGVM, the Joint Intelligence Fusion Center, and the Joint Follow-up Mechanism on the EDF. Meanwhile, on the repatriation of disarmed combatants, sustained efforts have been exerted through the reactivation of the follow-up mechanism, which yielded some results. Following a series of field visits which were attended by representatives of the DRC, Rwanda, and Uganda, along with the guarantors of the PSC framework, a total of 41 persons have been repatriated to their countries of origin, including 5 former FDLR combatants and their 22 dependents, as well as 14 ex-M23 combatants. While these results may be modest, what is of importance is the fact that the follow-up mechanism has created a positive dynamic of cooperation between the concerned countries. It also demonstrated that goodwill and cooperation by stakeholders lead to results on the ground. We shall endeavor to foster the same spirit of collaboration, which is much needed to address the long-standing challenge of negative forces in Eastern DRC. The second priority area relates to the efforts to strengthen the bonds of friendship and cooperation between the core countries of the region. As I reported in my last briefing to the Council, the workshop which was organized jointly with the African Union on the occasion of the 5th anniversary of the PSC framework early this year in Addis Ababa emphasized, among others, the need to address the persisting mistrust between Burundi, the DRC, Rwanda, and Uganda. Consequently, in my engagement with stakeholders in the region, I encouraged initiatives to promote frank dialogue between leaders to resolve differences and address any issue that could jeopardize good relations and cooperation between them. In this regard, I am pleased to report that based on my suggestion, the 9th meeting of the Regional Oversight Mechanism, during which President Museveni took over the chairmanship from President Denis Sassou Nguesso, provided an opportunity for such a conversation. Despite the absence of heads of state of some core countries, the discussions during the closed-door session revealed deep concern by member states about the local and regional implications of the negative forces as the main cause of mistrust between the core countries of the region. The meeting recognized the need for a new approach beyond the existing measures to enhance regional cooperation against the threat posed by the negative forces. It mandated President Museveni to convey to President Kabila the outcomes of the discussions at the meeting and to consult with the chair of the African Union, the ICJLR, and the SADC organ on politics, defense, and security cooperation on the next steps in joint engagement in this area. The Regional Oversight Mechanism also requested President Sassou Nguesso, as the chairman of ICJLR and outstanding chair of the Regional Oversight Mechanism, to consider taking initiatives to strengthen the bonds of friendship and cooperation between the core countries of the region, building on the previous initiatives he has taken in this regard. Third, support to peaceful, credible, and inclusive electoral and political process in the region. Despite some positive developments, the situation in the DRC, Burundi, the Central African Republic, and South Sudan continues to contribute to instability in the region. Recognizing the importance of peaceful and credible elections in the DRC for stability in the region as a whole, my efforts focused on mobilizing concerted regional and international support to the implementation of the 31st December agreement. Throughout my consultations in the region, including with President Sassou Nguesso as the chair of the Regional Oversight Mechanism and of the ICJLR, President Lourenço of Angola as outgoing chair of the SADC organ on politics, defense, and security cooperation, and President Lungu of Zambia as incoming chair of the SADC organ, as well as with the leadership of the AU Commission, I encourage sustained regional engagement in support of peaceful, credible, and inclusive elections in line with the 31st December agreement. I have also continued to emphasize the importance of addressing persisting differences between the government and the opposition in Burundi through an inclusive dialogue. As we await the outcome of the discussions of the 5th round of the Inter-Burundi dialogue, it is important that the region continues to accompany the Burundian government and people in support of inclusive, credible, and peaceful elections in 2020 in full respect of the Arusha Agreement. The situation in these countries was also on the agenda of the just concluded meeting of the Regional Oversight Mechanism. Among others, the meeting called for inclusive electoral and political processes in the region, noting that the exclusion of national stakeholders leads to perpetuating instability. Mr. President, enhanced commitment to inclusive dialogue and inclusive politics should also mean greater participation of women, youth, and civil society in peace and political processes in the Great Lakes. This was our 4th priority in the period under review. In addition to continuing to support the preparation of a regional action plan for the implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 1325, my office facilitated, in collaboration with the ICJLR, African Union, Farmwise Africa, and UN Women, joint solidarity missions led by women leaders in the region to Burundi, Central African Republic, and the DRC in July and August this year. In all countries visited, they were able to engage stakeholders at all levels, including the respective heads of state, legislative and executive authorities, and were successful in raising awareness on the importance of ensuring that women are included in political decision-making. The key recommendation from these missions is to work towards achieving full gender parity and, in the interim, ensure a minimum of 30% representation of women in peace and political processes, as well as in executive and legislative bodies by 2023. This recommendation was endorsed by the 9th meeting of the Regional Oversight Mechanism following a statement delivered by Madame Samba Panza, former interim president of the Central African Republic, on behalf of the advisory board of the Women's Platform in support of the Peace, Security, Cooperation Framework. We shall clearly continue to pursue this initiative vigorously. The 5th priority area covered efforts to address the root causes of conflicts in the region. In this regard, my office focused on efforts to fight impunity and address the protracted displacement in the region, in addition to supporting initiatives to address the illicit exploitation and trade of natural resources. We continue to support the operationalization of the Great Lakes Judicial Cooperation Network, including through the holding of its second meeting on 13-14 June in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. I am pleased to report that the network has now started to address specific cases of war crimes and crimes against humanity. My office, together with the UNHCR, ICJLR, and other partners, has also continued to promote durable solutions for protracted displacement pertaining to refugees from Burundi, the DRC, and Rwanda, whose presence contributes to mistrust among countries of the region. In this regard, I am pleased to note the request by the Regional Oversight Mechanism in Kampala to President Museveni to lead efforts on displacement in the region, including by hosting ministerial-level consultations later this year to be jointly convened by my office and ICJLR. We expect that this event will to generate political will and commitment to make progress in this critical area. Lastly, I would like to stress that the illegal exploitation of trade of natural resources remain factors of instability in the Great Lakes and deprive the region and its people of much-needed sources of socioeconomic growth. During the period of the review, we continued to consult with ICJLR on joint efforts in the implementation of the recommendations from the workshop that we have jointly convened in July 16 in Nairobi. Mr. President, distinguished members of the Council, despite some progress, a lot remains to be done to fully achieve the objectives of the PSC framework. Sustained economic development will depend on progress in establishing security in parts of the DRC and the region as a whole, and in strengthening collaboration between the concerned countries to ensure that resources of the countries of the region benefit the people of the region. Greater goodwill is needed to address the root cause of instability in the region. My office will clearly continue to support the countries of the region in these efforts. I thank you for your attention.